I am Scotty. No fun. Alright, do your way.
Hey guys, welcome back to Hey guys, welcome back to Choosing Recovery. I'm Olivia.
I am Scotty.
And he is ridiculous. Anyways, today we have an incredible story from Lori, so let's go ahead and jump into that.
Zoom. Where are you going?
It's this way.
Zoom.
Is it? Zoom.
Zoom.
No, it's zoom.
Alright, we're going that way. Boom.
Okay, so what was your drug or drugs of choice if you had multiple, and at what age did you start using?
Opiates, benzos, and weed for sure. Started using at age 13.
That's the number right there. We
That
do a
is
lot
the
of
number.
it is. We do a lot of research, and it's usually between 11 and 13 that adolescents start using. You know.
It was like a 25-year study, and the common age was 13, and I'm like, so if we know that there is this, why is there no prevention?
Like
like what?
Like when our son turns 11, it's over. You know,
Oh my
he's locked in for 2 years, and then when he's 13, he's free.
We'll see. So how long have you used for?
16 years.
16. Yeah,
long
time
time.
flies. It really does.
Yeah.
So who did your addiction affect?
I would love to say no one, except for myself, right? But no. Definitely my family. I'm sure that I ruined a whole lot of romantic and just platonic friendships along the way also. Yeah, pretty much anybody that I came in contact with.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Absolutely. So what led you to get clean?
Okay, so backstory. When I was 19, I was living with a girl that I worked with. She had 2 kids, different baby daddies. So I lived with her for a while. My life was insane because I was using, and at the request of one of her partners, I moved out. That was for about a week or 2, and I got a knock on a door by a cop, and he said that baby daddy of the son had jumped in through our bathroom window and stabbed her to death. That was May 8th, 2003. Fast forward many, many, many years. I got in a fight with my boyfriend at the time, and I picked up some court cases along the way. So his resolve to the argument was that he was going to stab himself in the legs, call the cops, tell them that I did it. I'm a 4th waiver, I'm on probation, and I'm loaded. So whether or not I stab him, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
So I did what every good drug addict does, and I took all the rest of the pills in the house and said, I'm not going to give you that power over me anymore. And I got clean. I made it about a week before, I made it like 3 days before I walked into a meeting. I found a woman to sponsor me. A week later, she sat me down. She told me her story. I told her mine. She asked what my clean date was. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She said, okay, so the night that you got in a fight with old dude, when was that? I was like, last Tuesday. She's like, okay, so Wednesday you woke up and you've been clean since, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, that's your clean date. Let's look it up. She looked it up, and it was May 8th, 2012, 9 years to the date of my girlfriend getting murdered in our bathroom.
Oh, wow. Wow.
That's a story to tell.
Yeah, and there literally is no coincidence. Like when things
Happen.
yeah. And there's always a reason. We're glad you're here with us today because your story matters. And as crazy as a lifestyle can get and how dangerous it can get, it's very important to put that out there for people to understand. Like, it's not all fun and games. Like you're putting your life on the line for many different ways, So
Thanks
we're
for sharing that
definitely
with us.
glad, that you're here with us today.
No problem.
So how are you staying clean today?
I was obviously, so I got a clean date that I did not pick on my own, so I take that as my higher power way of saying, you absolutely get another relapse, little girl, you just don't get another recovery. So relapse is not a part of my story, so I hung on to that clean date. And then, thankfully, I had a very good foundation that was built as a result of my gift of desperation to get clean. So today I do step work, I attend meetings regularly. It's kind of like, I was always told to have like a commitment. It's rather challenging to have a commitment in 2020/2021 because the majority of our meetings are shut down. So I have been asked to speak quite regularly. So I'm like, all right, higher power, I'll take that as my way to be of service. I sponsor other women. I work my traditions, my concepts, and yeah, I just don't pick up.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Relapse does not need to be part of somebody's story, you know, but if somebody does or were to relapse, you are always welcome back, and we're glad that you're able to come back, because not everyone makes it, so.
And that's why we try to relate as much as we can on here, you know, because same thing, like, it's not a part of her story, and you would have to, I don't know, beat me in the head so many times. That's how many times I went out and relapsed, so that's why we like it, because we have, like, best of both worlds to be able to share with people.
Yeah, our stories are very different. Like, yeah.
We're definitely 13 steppers too. So
oh my, Scott Allen.
And now we have a child. That's a. Don't put that in the blooper reel. We're keeping that.
Oh my gosh. So he does this thing where he's like, I want to start editing the videos. And then I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm going to edit this one. We sit down and do it. He goes off the wall. I'm like, babe, what the hell? He goes, what? And I was like, no, you're trying to edit this video. That's not staying in there.
It needs to happen.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, so what was your biggest accomplishment in your recovery so far?
I have had quite a lot of, I call them no matter what moments, where just a choice of series of situations, my participation in them, of course, as well, that definitely could have taken me back out. So I would think my biggest accomplishment is just staying clean, regardless of all of the stuff that I have been through, because I made poor choices along the way in my recovery.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love to hear that.
It's definitely important to hang on as long as you can, you know, and keep fighting for every day, because I always say, no matter how much time I have, like, I'm still early in recovery. It doesn't matter how many years, because I know today I've never faced, you know, and I have to stay that humble, because, like, I've never relapsed, and that's scary, because I know in a blink of an eye I can, you know?
Yeah, and when you put so many things in between you and your addiction, it makes it that much harder to go back out and pick up a substance or drink or whatever your demon is, you know?
Absolutely.
But it's awesome to hear. It gives, because a lot of these people that are freshly clean and sober in the middle of this pandemic, that only had meetings, they didn't learn how to pick up a phone yet, they didn't learn how to reach out to people, to use their coping skills, to listen to music, do a bunch of things. They didn't get to have that yet. So that's why it's good for them to hear that, like, to put things in between you and your addiction, you know, learn different things, use those things when things get hard.
And when we started the YouTube channel, we definitely were doing it, like, for us, you know, because the meeting shut down and COVID hit, and we're in a small rural area, so, like, we had one meeting a week, and then the city that's closest had meetings all the time, right? But they've all been, like, shut down. So we did that, and then we're like, we need to reach more people. We need other people to come on and share their experience, strength, and hope. So if they don't relate to me, they relate to you, you know?
Right.
And I'm not creeping, but your cat is cute. I'm creeping a little.
Where?
Look at him.
Oh!
My dad has those kind of cats. And I'm telling you what, he's like, they're furless. And finally when I met one, I'm like, they have peach fuzz. I was like, that's what it is. They have fur. It's just peach. Peach fur.
That's our cat with
beautiful
without
eyes. Yeah.
Oh.
Awesome.
Just feel bald.
I love it. Animals are important. They really are. So, would you... No, I almost said that wrong. Okay. Would you change anything knowing what you know now?
So, like, the logical part of my brain wants to say, yeah, of course, but then, like, the realistic, like, emotional part of my brain realizes that, like, my story is the exact way that it is because I can help so many other people, and if I was to change that, then that would be taken away from me. I wish that I could make some of the pain less along the way.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I would change anything.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those trick questions, you know?
Yeah.
Catch me on a bad day and catch me on a good day. It's probably different. So if you could say something to somebody that's still out there struggling in active addiction, what would you say to them?
Oh, man. Like, the first thing that comes to my head is, like, all of the cliches, but I feel like when you're out there using the cliches, you're just like, that's stupid.
Like, fuck off.
I've heard you have to get to your bottom to like stop using, but I kept using well past my bottom. So bottom can be wherever you want to stop digging. But like your life doesn't have to look like that, and it gets better, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah.
I love
Awesome.
that. Great advice. Great
Fun.
advice. Stop. He breaks everything. Okay. So if you could say something to a family member of a loved one that struggles with an addiction, what would you say to the family member?
Don't give up on them. Love them with boundaries. Like, welcome them regardless of how many times they struggle. It's likely there will be a lot of struggles along the way. Don't give up.
Yes.
It's so important. I mean, this is how my story like concluded with my addiction, you know, was when my family and loved ones stopped enabling me, and I had to feel so alone and depressed and desperate. Like you said, like there was no bottom for me. Bottom for me was when I was 6 feet under. I was gonna be dead, you know, because it was just getting worse. And then that's when I made wrong decisions because I didn't have anyone around me, and then I would go to jail. But don't enable your children at all in active addiction. Love them, like you said. Support them.
Love from afar.
You're killing them when you're enabling them. You're killing them.
Okay, so Lori, the floor is now yours, so take it away.
I grew up in a very Baptist religion household. I'm an only child. Neither of my parents had any type of skills on how to raise a child. My dad was go to work, pay for the bills. My mom was beat the crap out of the kid because that's what the Bible says, and then hopefully she'll make some right choices along the way. I didn't get like that was not my get down. I didn't identify with it. I didn't like believe the hype, for lack of better terms. I don't know. So like I want to say it was childhood rebellion. Likely it just might have been trauma and me trying to escape from it. But like I said, at age 13, I got invited to one of the kids at the bus stop's house, and they snuck into his grandparents' alcohol containers. And as soon as I put that first drink in my body, I was like, oh, this is what it is. Like, I feel comfortable with my skin. I don't feel different. I feel a part of. Okay, I get this. So I was just off and running after that. Barely made it through high school. Wound up in juvenile hall. Got kicked out of school. No clue, like I said, how I graduated, but somehow I did. I wound up. I used to say that my parents kicked me out of my house at 18, out of their house. Realistically, they gave me that wonderful ultimatum: you can stay here, but you have to stay under our rules. And I was like, fuck you. So I dipped out and I did what every logical person at 18 does, and I packed everything into a backpack and decided to live on the beach and be homeless. That was interesting.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah, you know. Nobody to tell me what I can and can't do. A while until I met a man walking. I had this little I thought that we were like the cool homeless people. Like we would do tricks. Like we spun fire and we played like instruments and we rode like unicycles and like we weren't that I'm gonna hold the sign on the street corner. We're like, I'm gonna give you something for your $1.
Yeah.
Right.
And my trick of the day was I had a plastic coat hanger. And I would go up to somebody and say that, like, I can fit my entire body, I bet you I can fit my entire body through this coat hanger without bending it or breaking it. If I do, give me $1 or all the change in your pocket. I was like 85 pounds soaking wet, so it was no problem to that. I was hustling a bunch of bikers, and they weren't biting. And so I heard this dude, like, down the way yell for me, and I'm like, what do you want? Are you going to give me $1? And he's like, no, like, here's the thing. If they don't give you $1 within 5 minutes, move on. And I was like, whatever, old dude. Then he said, want to make some real money, here's my card. Figure out where the story's going after that. I gave him a call. He said, bring all your stuff, come to my house. Got my nails done, got my hair done, got me all dressed up, and sure enough, come to find out that he wanted to set me up on these dates with these people and all of that stuff. And I'm like, you're a pimp. I don't know if this is gonna work out, because even though I'm almost in a dry addict, I feel like I still have some morals. So we came to the agreement that he could throw me in the strip club, and then I would just give him half my money or whatever. That lasted for a little bit until I got sick of him raping me, in which case then I packed everything I had in a bag and then went down to the beach. I called a friend, he picked me up, dropped me off at somebody else's house, and I stayed there. But now I had a job in the strip club, so now I had a disposable income. So insert more drugs, insert whatever that lifestyle brings. That's where I met that woman that I used to work with. She had 2 different children, like I said, separate baby daddies. I stayed with her for, I don't know, probably 6 months to 9 months. I ate a lot of mushrooms one night, and the kitchen knife started talking to me, so I decided to slit my wrist. While the kids were home. So I got 911 called on me, thankfully, because her sister was home. And they took me away, they brought me back. I told them that I wasn't suicidal, it was just the drugs. And so they didn't hold me on 5150. Came back and I remember like seeing her like scrubbing my blood out of the floors. And I was like, this isn't good. She and baby daddy sat me down and said, honey, this isn't really working. Like the kids can't really walk out and see this kind of stuff, so we need you to leave. So I moved out. About a week later, give or take, I got a knock on the door. Turns out that it was a cop. He let me know that the father of the son had jumped in through our bathroom window, stabbed her to death, slit his wrist while the kids were home, got all the information that I had on her because I was her emergency contact on the lease, and then left. That was May 8th, 2003. Like, I have her name tattooed of me. I sleep next to a picture of her. Like, that date holds value. Fast forward a little bit more of time, still using, and my life has now become completely unmanageable. So what is the best way that I decided to deal with this? I'm going to move to Hawaii. I'm going to run away, and I'm just going to only do things that are organic. It's like, it's everything, right? Yeah, I mean, like 3 days and I was in a strip club getting loaded with some stripper that I didn't know, back on the same shit, you know? I called one of my friends back in the States, and he's like, go to a meeting. And I'm like, dude, I'm not an alcoholic. That's stupid. Like, my only reference point for meetings was Nurse Jackie, which is not necessarily, but it was all that I had.
Close enough.
So I found a meeting. I went to a meeting, and I just remember looking around being like, I'm different than you people. Like, I'm not selling my kids Christmas toys. This isn't me. I'm good, you know? I went around, and that part where they say your name and say whatever, you know, your disease is, I said that, and like, I had like the ugly cry come out of my face that like doesn't stop, where like you can't breathe and there's snot, and it's like the Kim Kardashian really ugly cry. I had that going on. And I realized, after I got clean, I realized that like that was the first time I was honest about my disease with myself, you know? But that wasn't enough for me to stop, so I continued to use. I came back to California after that, continued the same spiel, just getting worse, nothing's getting better. And I'm not gonna date myself, but I met a guy on MySpace, and he was in the military. We had talked for a while, and he said that he was gonna come back to the States on his leave, but he didn't have anywhere to stay. So me being the good American that I am, you can sleep in my bed and I'll sleep on the couch. Needless to say, I did not sleep on the couch. We wound up, you know, doing what we do. We had a wonderful week that he was there, and I said, hey, this is great, but I'm gonna move back to Hawaii. He knows nothing about my drug abuse. Like, I'm really good about keeping that to myself, because if I tell you, then I might have to share, and I'm entirely too selfish for that. He said, no, don't move to Hawaii. Like, marry me and move to Germany. And I was like, all right. So we went down to the courthouse, and I married him. Then I moved to Germany. I thought that I had brought enough stuff to kick. I did not. And so then I had to come clean and tell him, hey, by the way, you married a junkie, and I need you to get me some stuff really quick, because this is going to get ugly. He took it really, really well and came back with some meds, and I was like, thank you. Maybe like I was abstinent for, I don't know, tops 2 or 3 months. I was drinking like a fish, though, until I found like another girl. She had cancer, so she had a wonderful endless supply of medication, because they give it out like candy in Germany. And we just stayed loaded for the rest of the time in Germany. I moved back to the States after 2 years of living in Europe, and a girlfriend of mine got a DUI. She would drag me to meetings, and I would go, because she would drag me to AA, and I'm not an alcoholic, I don't drink, so like, that's fine. I'm just gonna show up loaded though, whatever. And I remember like sitting in those meetings and being like, this is stupid, but also I heard them talk about using like I used, and I heard them say that they could stop, you know? And I was like, this is interesting, but I'm not gonna do anything about my disease right now. I'm gonna keep using, you know? I remember going home one night and just having like a full-on meltdown, and like it felt like there was 1,000 pounds of bricks on my chest and I couldn't breathe. And I just remember praying to like whatever is there, because I don't believe in God and not that religious crap, whatever is there, like help me breathe, because I can't function right now. And within a good 5 minutes I could breathe, and like the panic attack had passed, and I was like, that's strange, but okay. Fast forward a couple of more months, and me and the husband's relationship is extremely toxic, and I need to tell him that I want a divorce, but you know, we don't fight like regular people, so I don't know how to tell him. So I'm in the shower, I hear him come home, he is slamming stuff all around, and he comes in, he starts yelling at me while I'm in the shower, and I have no clue what I said, because I prayed once again to whatever's up there, give me some words to ask this man for divorce. And to this day, I have no clue what I said, but I know that I asked him for divorce. He said, okay, closed the door and left the apartment. And I was like, all right, so that was weird. I don't want to acknowledge that I'm having spiritual experiences in this moment, so I just continue on. Fast forward, I don't know, a few more months after that, Sons of Anarchy, kitten, my cat likes to knock shit over. Where Sons of Anarchy is like really popular on TV, and I'm at a bar and I see a man and he's got the motorcycle cut on, the slick back hair, and he's covered in tattoos, and I'm like, you are my Jax Teller. So I went over to talk to him, and we exchanged information, we started dating. I wound up telling him like little bits, because you don't ever tell somebody your whole story right off the bat. Like, I'm insane and I don't want you to know that, because then you're gonna run for your own safety. So I told him like, he knew that I had some charges. I collected some charges along the way. I accidentally sold to an undercover at the strip club before I moved to Germany, and I found out when I came back for Christmas and got arrested at the airport. So I had some felony charges along the way. But so his best friend murdered somebody on accident, whatever that means, and he didn't want me to visit me and his best friend in jail, so he's like, you need to stop using. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm just gonna use behind your back. That continued for a while. We moved up to Orange County, and I spent my last penny getting us up there. And he was gone all the time. His motorcycle club was up in Orange County, and like there's all these Facebook posts of like him with other chicks and just doing some crazy stuff. And so I lose my mind and I call my girlfriend, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, he's always at the club, he's always doing this, he's never home. Like, I need to leave, but I need money. She's like, honey, go back to the club, he'll never know. Like a couple nights, save some bank and dip out. And I was like, you're a brilliant woman. So I start getting ready, and there's these really weird noises like out of the corner of the apartment, but I can't figure out what it is, and it's a new apartment, so maybe, I don't know, neighbors. It keeps happening. Finally I look over, an old dude is like standing in the dark next to a bookcase, like asking me, who are you going to fuck? To which I let him know, I'm not going to sleep with anybody, honey, I'm going to leave you. And then I tell him my plan. Needless to say, that did not go over well, and the result of the argument was that he was going to stab himself in the leg, call the cops, tell them that I did it, I'm a fourth waiver, I'm on probation, I'm loaded, so I'm going to jail 90 days regardless of the outcome. Because I have zero self-respect or self-worth, I said, let's work through this. We can get through this together. We'll be okay. So I forgave him. I made it about 3 days before I lost my mind, like full on, like girl interrupted meltdown, in the bathtub, like the water running over me, all of my clothes and shoes, like rocking back and forth, like trying to like make this shut up and like get out of my skin because I can't. And I remember those meetings. And so I looked up, I got out of the shower, put some dry clothes on, looked up my closest meeting, went to one right down the street. Did my best to stay in the meeting the whole time. I did, but like my go-to was like leave as soon as the meeting's over, and I was smoking a cigarette. And this one dude was like, sweetheart, you're a hot mess. You need to talk to a woman in there. And I'm like, no. And he's like, go talk to a woman. I went and talked to her. She asked me some questions. I'm like, this is dumb. She told me, like, go to a meeting every day. Don't use in between meetings and call me every day. And I'm like, that's stupid. Like, that's never going to work. I've done a lot of things to stop using, but going to a meeting and calling you and not using is not going to keep me clean. That's dumb. But it clean. And we met up about a week later at a Starbucks. She told me her story. I told her mine. I was able to see enough parallels that I decided to stick through it. Then she asked what my clean date was. I told her I don't know what that means. We backtracked it to like the following Wednesday, and the following date was May 8th, 2012, which was 9 years to the date of my girlfriend getting murdered in our apartment complex. To which I have a full-on meltdown crying, and she's like, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with that date? And I'm like, it's the date, you don't understand. And I told her, and she said, honey, like sometimes you don't get to pick your clean date, sometimes it picks you. But take as you don't get another chance at recovery, little girl. This is it. Stay clean no matter what. Fast forward maybe 90 days, I'm in a meeting, and I see this dude come in every week, and he comes in with a bunch of other kids, like they arrive in a van, and I can tell that he's different because like he has a cell phone and keys, and like nobody else that he's with does. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I read this dude works for a treatment center, and it looks like he gets paid to hang out with dope fiends all day and go to meetings. Like, that's a sweet gig. So I hit him up after the meeting. I'm like, how do I get your job? And he handed me like this little trifold pamphlet for to be a drug and alcohol counselor. And I called the school the next day and I enrolled in school. So at 90 days clean, I was going to school to work in treatment that I had never gone through.
Oh my goodness.
Fast forward another, I don't know, 11 months, I wound up leaving the crazy biker and moving out on my own because it was just insanity. He was still using. I have no clue how I stayed clean during that time, but I did. I wound up graduating school with like a B, which is like the highest grade I've ever graduated anything with. I did an internship. I passed a state test at this point in time. Now I am a certified substance abuse counselor.
That's awesome.
And, use my 16 years of field research to help others. I had maybe right around like 18 months clean at this point, and I was moving out of the place because I was renting a room in Craigslist from some chick, and I moved in with another dude from the room. So he was the secretary at my home group meeting. Male roommates do not typically stay male roommates. In my personal life, they wind up turning into partners of some form because you commingle genitalia. So we started dating. And then at some point in time, like I was like, we're gonna be that couple. We're gonna be that couple in the rooms that like everybody's like, oh, how cute. They're all little 12-step babies, yay. He proposed to me in a meeting. Like I thought we were gonna be that it couple. We tried to get pregnant. I got pregnant. I had miscarriage. I got pregnant again. I went to go visit a girlfriend. She had like her 2-year-old had a birthday party. We got back from the birthday party. I was taking my makeup off in the bathroom, and my fiance came in the bathroom, grabbed me by the throat, pinned me up against the wall, and told me he was going to kill me. I don't know what is in those hormones that create when the baby is being made, but I had this like overwhelming urge to get out of the place, protect your child at all costs. So I went to my sponsor's house. I did some research. I found a pregnant women's shelter. If you were a victim of domestic violence, they had a bed for you, so I stayed there. I went for my first ultrasound, and my roommate at the time said, bring the baby daddy, and I'm like, well, I'm not talking to him. She's like, bring him, he'll want to go, and I'm like, fine. So I bring in, we go in for the ultrasound, turns out the baby does not have a heartbeat. I lose my mind. Now I'm full of hormones, and now I have a dead baby inside of me. Lose my mind. He starts in with, come back, move back home, it'll be fine, it'll be different, that won't happen again. Well, you can't stay in a pregnant women's shelter if you're not pregnant. So I made a poor choice to move back in with him. Full of hormones, about a week later, he says, let's go to Vegas and elope. It'll be different. So we went to Vegas and we eloped. Poor choice number 2. Fast forward a little bit more time, and his family owned a house out there that said we could stay there rent free until we figured it out. So we moved to Vegas. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. I'm away from everybody that I know, but I have the 12-step fellowship that I'm a part of. I would love to say that he never put hands on me again. That is not my story, though. The abuse got worse every time. Every time I said, but he didn't do this, he did that. He didn't do this, but he did that. And every time it got worse. I told one girl in the rooms, one girl, she was the only girl I told. So one day I was downstairs doing my step work. He came down the stairs, just started beating the crap out of me. I got up, grabbed my stuff to leave. I turned around and he just clocked me straight in my face, and I could feel like my face break, and I was like, okay. Booked it out the door, called my sponsor. She said, you have to go to the ER, you have to call the cops. I said, I can't call the cops on my husband. Like, I'm an addict. Those are the rules. You don't do that. She's like, call the cops. I'm not calling the cops. Call that girl. That girl meets me at the urgent care. That girl calls the cops because I can't call the cops. That girl holds my hands while I make the statement to the police. And then she takes me back to my house to allow me to gather some things. The cops had gone and arrested him, put him in jail. Out of nowhere, like this fellowship showed up and like helped me move all of my stuff into a storage unit. You know, I was in a meeting, I got subpoenaed to his court case. I was in a meeting and I'm sharing about it for the first time openly. And this woman came out of nowhere and she's like, who's going to give you your court case? And I'm like, no one. She's like, you're not going alone. She takes my phone, she puts her phone number in. She's like, you're not going alone. I'll go with you. She held my hand that entire time. He wound up pleading out, caught a deal. She walked me back to my car. She stayed with me. Like, I don't know. For me, the fellowship showed up. Like that day and that whole experience, you know, like it tells us, like you never have to do anything alone again as long as you open your mouth. And I opened my mouth and I didn't have to do anything alone, and it was amazing. My parents said, come move back to San Diego. We'd love to have you. I do not have a good relationship with my parents. Mind you, I've worked a couple of rounds of steps at this point in time, so now I realize it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to receive it. So I moved back in with them. What happened is that it allowed me an opportunity to give them a living amends. to give them back their daughter that they had lost so many years, that I had robbed them of, you know, like, once I was able to realize my parents were never going to change, that it was my part to change, that's what made the difference.
Awesome.
I'm sure a little bit of forgiveness along the way was helpful, but once I realized they're going to be the same, I get to do something different, I get to implement some boundaries along the way as well, now we have a relationship, you know? I show up for holidays, I show up just to show up, like, we go out to dinner, we do those things that, like, we never did before, because I was too busy, like, pawning all of their jewelry and taking all their money out of their wallets, and they didn't want to take me anywhere, because I had a shaved head like a freak. Like, my life with my parents is different today. I am still a drug and alcohol counselor. I work at an outpatient center currently. A couple of years ago, I have a reoccurring theme of choosing bad boys with motorcycles. And so I realized at some point in time that the chances of me finding a good guy that rides a motorcycle, preferably in recovery or just not using, really slim. Really, really slim. So I decided, why not get your own motorcycle? So I went out, got my M1 endorsement, got a motorcycle. I'm really proud of that.
Good.
I made it, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 years, maybe a year and a half. Prius hit me on the freeway, I broke a bunch of bones, and my bike got totaled. So I have the experience of, like, having medical issues while in recovery. It was really sick. I was terrified about taking medications. I was terrified.
Yes.
For me, if I take it as prescribed and only when I'm in pain, I didn't get high. Like, it was really weird.
Yeah.
It's very strange. And, like, I was able to, like, cut the pill in half when I didn't need the whole thing. And, like, somebody was looking out for me, because a drug addict like me doesn't do that. The drug addict like me takes the entire bottle and then complains about it when I'm out, you know? I was able to, like, successfully recover from that. Like, I got plates and screws that are holding me together, and, like, I always ask people that want to touch them because you can feel them, and then they look at me strange, but I don't know. I think it's hilarious.
Oh my god.
That's a trip.
I got my own apartment by myself with my name on the lease 2 years ago. I'd never done before. I'd either had a partner or a roommate scenario. So that was really cool to be able to do by myself, and I can decorate it however I want. And I have my little naked cat here, Lucy, as well. She is my little companion during quarantine. Then insert quarantine, right? Hello, COVID, somebody ate a bat or something like that. I don't know. Pandemic going on. We can't leave. The meetings are now virtual, all of that stuff. And a little bit before the pandemic hit, one of my coworkers was reading one of my notes, and she's like, "Lori, you write really well. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I did that because I started writing one when I was loaded. And then I got clean, and one of my shrinks said to finish writing it, but I tried and I couldn't write while clean. Like, I can only write while loaded, which makes no sense, but in my mind it made sense." And she's like, no, let me read it. I let her read it. I said, don't show this to anybody. She showed it to another coworker, and then they tag teamed me and were like, you have to finish this. And I was like, you guys are rude. And I wrote a book.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting along the way.
That is amazing. What's the name of the book? Share. Where can we get it?
You get on Amazon. It's called Maybe You Have to Know the Darkness. It is not my name. It's published under Zoe Sutton. Zoe was one of my stripper names because I don't need people that I work with or my family or any clients knowing my lifestyle. That's... No. No. Yeah. So you can find it on Amazon. But yeah, since then, like, I've just been I do like 4 meetings a week. I have a bare minimum of 2 meetings a week to keep my sanity. 3 meetings a week, I'm feeling pretty good. 4, and like my recovery is on point. For me, that is what I need. I have a sponsor that I work with. I have a handful of women that are actually doing steps, which is awesome. I 100% am a little 12-step girl, because for me, that's the only thing that worked. I don't think that recovery has one way that works for everybody, and I know a whole lot of other people that have gotten clean and sober doing things differently, you know, and it works for them. So for this addict, this is what I do, but if that doesn't sound appealing, if that doesn't work for you, try something else. There's a whole bunch of different fellowships out there that are not 12-step based. Like, I have a girlfriend I met in the rooms, and she hung out in the rooms for like 2 years. She found Jesus, and like, she's thriving. She's a lawyer now, you know. She doesn't do meetings anymore. I have another girl that does a thing called like active recovery, where she does yoga and goes on hikes, and she's thriving. I have friends that like do Buddhism and they're thriving. Like, I have a whole bunch of different ways to get clean and stay clean. So like, whatever works for you, just, for me, I'm a little 12-step girl.
Love it.
I love it. How inspiring. And I think, you know, it's very important that we understand, like, that the disease, at some point, whatever your higher power is, they can lift the obsession to use. And you sharing that you were on your own management due to your accident, that makes me so happy to hear. Because we want people to know there is life after addiction. It doesn't mean that you were tied directly to it. Am I saying go and drink or like replace it? No. But if you're in a situation, you know, and something like that occurs, then you need to list what is right for you and what's not, and what you're going to allow and what you can handle. When I was in labor, I freaked out. Okay? Like, I freaked out, and I was like, because I was like, oh, it's going to be a natural birth, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. I was in labor for like 30 hours, okay? And at one point, I looked at him and I was like, babe, I was like, I need pain medicine. And he goes, okay. And I'm like, okay. Oh my gosh. I was like, I'm losing my sobriety. I'm freaking out. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, you're not going and getting high, Olivia. He goes, you're in labor. I'm like, what? He goes, you don't lose anything. And I freaked out, and I ended up having a C-section, but like, it was like, and even after, like, they gave me pain medicine for a week, and I was like, at the point where I was like, well, maybe you watch the bottle, right? Like, maybe that would help, you know, like, so I like felt so guilty. I'm like, babe, I'm going to take one. He goes, okay. You know, and then eventually I just threw the whole bottle, like I was done, you know, like I didn't need it anymore. Like, I knew that. And I called my sponsor. I did all those things because I knew that my obsession can be lifted, but it's still very easy to backtrack, right?
Absolutely.
So, like, that was being accountable and seeing, like, what was okay and what is not. Like, I just think that's important to share people. You know, I was petrified, you know, and only being in your situation, I couldn't imagine, like, everything you have to, like, just think of, and that's so important to do. It's like caring and loving for yourself, you know? Amazing. And I love your humor in it. You know, you're like, well, this is what happened, you know? Like, you're real, you're genuine, you know? And you bring light to the world. I love what you're doing. This is awesome. You have a great story to share. Amazing.
Yeah.
100% grateful to have you on here too. You know, it was nice to meet you. Last thing I'd like to ask you is, can you please state your first name, your clean date, and one thing you're grateful for today?
First name is Lori. Clean date is May 8, 2012. One thing that I am grateful for today, I'm just going to piggyback off of what you just said. My first thought waking up in the morning was not getting loaded. And there was a whole lot of years, days in a row, where that was my first thought in the morning. And that is not my first thought today. And I don't want to kill myself on a regular basis. So I got 2 things that I'm grateful for.
Absolutely.
That's a win-win right there.